Thursdays because we get an opportunity to learn more about those who are in our community who have a huge influence, impact on our youth, on just the community in general. So we have such an amazing man today that we want to bring forward and respect his time. But please make sure you do your part and share the videos. So we are live on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, all the social media platforms. So please make sure you do your part in contributing to the Black Podcast and our community by sharing the information, the shows that you will see here on the Black Podcast. I am your co-host, Dr. Sherelle Hobson, and my partner in crime, Mr. he's in another zone. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm always in many zones over here. We're not going to waste any time getting to the meat and potatoes of today's show. We got a gentleman who is, he is very sought after. He is so sought after that he is back to back from event to our show to event. Boom, 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 right now. So we just want to go ahead and bring him to you and talk about the power of raising the bar. He's been able to raise the bar at a couple different capacities throughout his life. So we're gonna jump right into it. Drum roll, please. No further ado. Dr. Townsel, how's it going?
How you doing?
It's good to see you. It's good to see you. We know you're a busy man. It was hard to get in contact with you, but we're here, and so we're excited to have you. And we thank you for doing the things that you're doing and contributing to our community. And so we want to learn more about you and why you do the things that you're doing. So we want to start off with the background. So where you're from and the dynamics of your family.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Dr. Andraé Townsel. I'm born and raised. I'm a graduate of Detroit Public Schools, and I was raised with my mother and father, my brothers. There's four of us, and I'm the third child. My father, we're blue collar. We grew up blue collar, working at Ford Motor Company ever since he was 18 years old. As a matter of fact, he's about to clock in 50 at Ford Motor Company. It's just a great town, great place, and that's what we do. We start from the bottom and we get.
I love that. So I know that currently right now you're working in the space of education, but I want you to kind of maybe talk about or speak on that a little bit of that journey, right? So we know that within our community, a lot of Black men, are involved in sports, and that's kind of like their vehicle to go on to college and stuff like that. So I want you to speak on maybe some of the organizations that you were a part of in high school, and then that journey of going from high school to college. Did you already know what you wanted to do? Like, kind of talk about that space.
Growing up in Detroit, I had a tough high school experience starting off. I remember being an incident that occurred at my school after a basketball game where people were shooting into a crowd, and that sign was hit twice where I nearly got shot in the head. It became an emergency with a gentleman, and we all kind of dispersed and ran to the the corner store where my parents came, picked us up. And the bad thing about it, I had to go to school the very next day, and it was just a traumatic experience. Sometimes you hear the term ACEs, outside Howard University homecoming week, so a lot of festivities happening behind me. I was a student athlete. I was found at a car wash, whereas parents that we should probably start playing football. I was a big kid, 6'5", 300 pounds, and one of the coaches reached out to my parents when we met them and got me into a technical high school. I was a student athlete as well as an artist. I draw very well, so in drawing. So long story short, I had the opportunity to play high school. I earned a football scholarship to Howard University. And while playing full scholarship to a bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degree, all from the university. It was an amazing experience. I think the game changer for me was being around possible. My coaches were Black men, and they said, "Hey, listen, you have a lot of potential, and and it's my job to ensure that you're polished. So when you get out into the world, you're able to serve to the best back." And that's exactly what I'm doing now.
Wow. And I love that you said that. I have also was a student athlete in college. I ran track. And when I transitioned into education and becoming a teacher and a coach, that was one of my number one things going into, designing my program was I teach life first and track second, because ultimately you want to make sure that your student athletes are not just there to perform or bring home a trophy, but you want to make sure that you're setting them up for life. And so I'm so glad that you had coaches in that space, especially when we talk about football. Um, a lot of the conversations that we find in athletic programs when it comes to young men is football, football, football. We're not talking enough about life. We're not talking enough about the transferable skills that you learn from sports, right? How to go get it. Hey, some things, you win some, you lose some. How do you bounce back? Those are all the things that you can be coaching, but also teaching so that they can use them and apply them to life. So I'm so glad that you had coaches in your life that did that. So did you ever have that type of dream of, okay, I'm going to the next level in athletics, or did you always know, like, okay, this is what I'm good at, this is the skills I have, and this is what it's provided me with, but I have other goals? Or were you one of the athletes that really focused on going to the next level in athletics?
I think that's a great question. I think it's important to share that as a student athlete, I was just like all inspired to go to the NFL. We all wanted to go to the next level. I was blessed to have a coach. Listen, one day you're going to be an ex-athlete. And when you're an ex-athlete, what are you going to do? We had amazing academic advisors that ensured that we graduated one time. But yes, I did have professional aspirations by the grace of God. I did have why I was able to work out with the Washington Redskins, the Detroit Lions. I actually signed a Canadian Football League team called the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 2009. They were just Cup Championship, which is the Canadian Super Bowl. But at the same time, understand ex-athlete, I also worked in the field of education while pursuing a career. In addition to pursuing a pro career, I also enrolled into a program at Howard University because I was always told not to put all eggs in one basket. Listen, what are you going to do on the academic side? And then how are you going to allow that translate into your professional world? I think sport is life played out, overcoming adversity, winning, losing, the highs of the highs as well as the lowest. So having coaches that articulated what it meant to be a student athlete. He said, and an athlete second. And right now, what I say all the time as an educational leader, I call it the triple academics, athletics, and the arts. Every young person falls into all three of those categories, arts. And I think if you focus on those things, if those three lanes allow young people to strive.
Well, when you got into education, so fast forwarding to once you graduated from college, you knew that you wanted to go into education. What was it about that space that you were like, okay, I can go, because you hear people all the time tell us, like, you're not going to make no money being no teacher, and we don't, but when you have a reason behind why you're doing the things that we're doing, we all have that why. And I know that I got into education because I knew that in order for there to be change, and I have to put myself in position to create that change. What can I do different to make sure the next athlete coming up, the next young man or woman is more prepared than I was? And so that's why I decided to get into education and pursue that area, that space. So just speak on why you decided to go into education. What was it about that space that you were like, this is where I belong? And why did you continue to not just go in the classroom and check that box, but say, I want to be a principal, I want to go and be a superintendent, or moving on to that space? Why did you choose education, and why didn't you just settle for being a teacher or just being in a classroom? Why did you continue to raise the bar?
Thank you. When I went into the field of education, and when I saw the landscape, when I saw that there was a lack of black male educators, when I saw that there was a lack in leadership, I thought that was an opportunity to fill that gap and fill that void. I recall a black teacher. I was in the 6th grade. The first time I recall having, administrator, I was in high school. So I knew that it was a rare opportunity. We need black teachers. We need black teachers, and specifically, we need black male teachers. And I'm like, hello. But I think it's extremely difficult because a lot of us, when we get into in a small amount of time, we leave the field of education because it's absolutely difficult. I mean, from my experiences, I saw my colleagues, get, evaluated that had high aspirations in the field of education. Ultimately, evaluate providers. We have to find a stable job and career. No one's looking to risk it all. Me to bet on myself. I said, listen, if I get the best education possible and apply the best practices, issue I come across, if I'm able to overcome it, I've just gotten better. And it reminds me, a smooth sea has never made a skilled sailor. So every very difficult opportunity that I was in, listen, if I overcome this, who am I becoming after I overcome it? And I understood your career ladder was like climbing a mountain. And one thing I know about mountains, you can't drift to the top. But I was strapped up, ready to go in the top education program in the country, being Howard University, which is and I had some legendary instructors that continued to pour into me and nurture to go out into the workforce. I have every possibility to be successful, and that's exactly what happened. And it was not easy, but someone told me, don't wish it was easier. Wish that you were better. Wish for more skills. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more wisdom. When it's going for it, don't wish for less work. Wish you had more work ethic. So applying those little bit of philosophies and say, hey, the best. And by the grace of God, I was able to not only strive in the field of education.
Now, share this, because listening to you, I hear a little bit of myself in you. Some of the things that you speak. So many people complain about what's going on and wishing that it was easier for them. Why do I have this problem? It's because you were given this problem so that you can grow and become greater through it. So I know with you saying that, come up in the Detroit area. So looking at how you've been able to push through from one level of academics to the next, to the next, to the next. There's so many of us that are, especially in today's microwave culture. I want it now. Like, I got to get the bread now. What do you say? What is your leadership method when it comes to pouring, specifically young Black men, when it comes to pouring into them, trusting the process, becoming who you need to become so that you can attract the money, so you can attract the opportunities? So what is that you pour into them to kind of help them understand, look, you got to go through the process. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yes, what I tell our young people all the time, I say, hey, listen, meet the bar, exceed the bar, and ultimately raise that bar, and then repeat. The name of the game in some cases is survive in advance. When you get through those tough, and out on the other side, now it's time to advance. Don't put yourself to that same rigmarole. And the next challenge, the next level, and the next opportunity is like playing the video game. You beat one level, especially if you almost lost your life playing that level. Move on to that next level. And that's been one of my strategies. I've never taken a lateral step in the job. And I worked at every level, from teacher to coach, athletic director, dean of students, central office specialist, assistant level, high school principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent in the state of Michigan. And I was nominated superintendent of the year 2021. And the only lateral step, I went to a different superintendency in the state of Maryland. So I went from 16 to I'm managing 16,000 students. I went from managing 6 schools to now I'm managing. It's just moving on to as raising the bar on yourself. Every day you wake up, look in the mirror and be better than you. % better, get better. And that's the mentality. So I tell my young men all the time, don't wish it was easy. And once that you are better and you have those skills and attributes that it takes to be a phenomenal leader, information changes situations, what Dr. Thomas said. And I learned that information, the frustration, if you know to do it. You should do it. You could do it, and you don't do it. It's the way you win is should, could, did. You should do it. You could do it. You did do it, and that's what we have to do, man. And it's very, very hard to do because no one's here to save you. And I remember watching them, and I'm like, wow, there's really no one here to save public education. I said, okay, I'm Superman. I don't subscribe to whatever anyone say about the status quo. I'm not the status quo stereotype. I am that guy. I am him. That's what the kids say. I'm him. So in the language, you have to labor in the philosophies. You have to labor in the best practices. You have to, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Man,
I can tell when you get in your element, boy. You be like, I'd be like, go sign up for some more classes myself. That's inspiring. Yeah. That is very inspiring.
I love so much. Like I love your approach. Like I said, I see so much of myself in you. But you mentioned young men, these young kids. If you don't mind my asking, how old are you?
I'm 38 years old.
38. Found the youth. He just found it. That's all it is. About to found the youth. We're like you 20 something. But so many of us, like we hear those different phases. I know Dr. Hobson, she just finished her doctorate a few years back. She is just a little past 30. I'll leave that on her.
I'm 41 and I'm okay with that.
But and myself,
it's a blessing to get old.
It's a blessing. Yes,
exactly.
Every year I'm like, this is a celebration because it's not it's not normal anymore. If for people to say, oh, I made it to 40 or 50. Now it's like, so you got to celebrate that moment. Every moment. Brian, I think you're chopping up just a little bit.
Yeah, your microphone is popping.
We can't hear you. Okay, so we were talking about, I know like working in the athletic space, that's the cycle that I like. I want to be an athletic director. Well, I'm going to be an athletic director. But being in that space, you just have so many opportunities to really, I tell people all the time that I don't lead by example because I am the example. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do because I'm doing it. And so we have to make sure that we meet our students and our leaders where they're at, right? I think a lot of times in leadership, those, they come up and it's like, well, I've made it, so you should make it, or I've done this, or I've gone through that and I made it. But you have to really learn to meet people where they're at. Everybody's journey is not the same, and you have to respect their journey. But I believe that those of our youth now, we had trauma, and you talked about the trauma that you've had in your life when it came to the shooting at your school. Our students now have so much more, to me, I feel like, to deal with. Every day they turn on the news, they see someone that looks like them that are getting killed and shot. So how do you remain, like, keep them focused on, like, hey, I know what you see, and I know where you may feel like you're currently in, but how do you keep them focused on the process? I know you talked about the process, but how do we spend so much time telling them, okay, you can make it here, but we don't spend enough time telling them, what do you do in the process? What do you do when you feel like giving up? What do you do when it's like you see everybody around, especially now, like Brian was talking about, social media? I want to be like this person. They have this, they're doing that. So how do we keep them focused on, like, that kind of stuff is temporary? How do we keep them focused on the big picture while they're in the process?
That's a great question. First of all, you are you. You are unique. Be you and I'm me. And he be you. I think we're all our individuals. And one thing, you have to use GPS system. If you get into a vehicle and you have a destination you need to get to, you don't know how to get there, put the goal in, and then the road show itself. But before you get in that vehicle and get on that road, you need that you can make it all the way to the destination. I tell my team all the time, live well, lead well. Work harder on yourself than you do on the job. So that means behind the scenes, outside gas taking, showing that you can get to that destination, that you're not dead on the side of the road or flat tire on the side of the road, there is no breakdown. You can get that gas tank full. You ain't sure that the pressure is good in your tires. You get on that road, you got the GPS. Go. Let me tell you something. Someone say, Dr. How are you so successful? I say, no, it wasn't hard. It was easy. The problem is things that are easy to do. It's easy to sit here right now and open up a book. That's easy to do, but it's also easy to sit here. So the question is what do you do? Nike says just do it. Just move and just do it because it's easy to do and it's easy not to do. So at this point, it's on you to decide.
All right. So what I was trying to ask earlier is, so you opened up the Superman cape earlier, you show the S on the chest, like I'm coming for public education. A lot of people see that, they have that desire. You know what? I'm going to do that. This is where my career is going to go. This is the change that I'm going to implement. But then bright shiny object syndrome. What about that? Ooh, they're making money over there. Ooh, that's a nice opportunity. Ooh, so what has kept you focused on staying in an academic space and really making the change that you're making right now? What is that vision? What is that end goal that's keeping you focused?
That end goal for me is to I've always said I wanted to be educated that I needed when I was a young person. So my journey is to be that educated through the shiny things that are out there. That's also an education. The problem is education has a stigma of impact. I mean, I remember, when I was an assistant principal, I was making six figures. You know what I mean? Just now knocking on 30. As a high school principal, 6 figures. Assistant superintendent, big time 6 figures. So I think we need to break the myth. The part of my goal, hopefully, of education that I also can rebrand what it's like to be an educator, make the field look attractive. I know if you're doing show that, listen, education is attractive too. I mean, probably when you deal, you're making a lot of money compared to judges, doctors, all type of high-level positions. Don't let that deter you. What I used to do when I was a young man coming up in the field scales and see what the maximum it would go to. Then I look at the next level salary scale, see the maximum. I'm like, 100,000. Okay, educators make $250,000. I can do that. Take the limitations of yourself and just do it. There was nothing impossible about it. I just put my mind and I arrived at the destination.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I know you talked about that focus and that journey. So I want you to leave us with what do you have coming up? Do you have any events anywhere that we can support you? And also leave us. I want you to speak directly to two type of people. I want you to speak to the person who is in that space, that young man or woman who is still trying to find their way. And then I want you to speak directly to the person who's in leadership, who's in education, and are thinking about, okay, I don't think what I'm doing matters. I feel like because you hear about the burnouts of teachers now and the shortage of teachers. What would you say to that teacher or that educator to keep them to stay course? And what would you say to that young man or woman who feels like, I'm just in this space, I don't know what I want to do or where I'm going? So if you could speak to those two people, and then also let us know what do you have coming up that we can support you in.
To the aspiring student, what I would say is learn as much as you can possibly learn and keep your education, understand what the best practices are, and get into a professional network with individuals that are. One of the game changers for me, I was an assistant principal at a high school, and I said so I joined the Superintendent's Academy, and then I went to all of the superintendent conferences, and I became a network is your net worth. You show me your friends, I show you your future. So I love attendance, and that's my reality today. To the educator that's grinding right now, doing great work, message to that individual is don't get frustrated. Leadership is it's difficult, it's hard, but stay the course and take care of yourself. Ensure your mental together. You get that together. You get back in. There is no waving the way. Surrender means just accept what it is. There is no accept. You that you want to do and take control. I was told that the best helping hand you ever receive are at the end for yourself. What I have coming up is, I'm grinding daily. I think the amazing work that I do it alongside my team is I'm on LinkedIn as Dr. Andraé. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram at Andraé Townsel. That's DRAOWN. I post my journey in educational leadership, and my hope and goal is to connect many educators and young people as I possibly can and make an impact on young people, experience, and also increasing academic achievement. So thank you so much.
Man, this has been action packed 30 minutes. I encourage everybody to go back and re-listen. We will be having an encore because we got to get more of this out of you. So much of the language you're speaking is right up my alley. I know Dr. Hobson can attest to it. We went through a coaching program together, and a lot of the principles that you're laying out that people need to start living by, we were shouting those from the mountaintops. And whenever you start to live by those principles, can't nothing hold you back. So appreciate you so much for being with us, man. We definitely going to be in touch. I just gave you a following on Instagram. I'll be reaching out to you. But definitely keep doing the good work, and good luck with the rest of the sessions that you're in your event today. And you're going to be hearing from us.
Yes, brother. And thank you
Thank you so
so
much.
much. Thank you so much for just being you. And we'll be in contact very soon.
It was a pleasure. Y'all be blessed.
Thank you.
Likewise. Take it easy. All
Wow.
right.
That was that was that was
He dropped the
a
hammer.
that was a let's get right to it.
Hmm.
I loved it. I loved it. But like he said, we spend a lot of time in space, or a lot of time in a space of, well, what if I go do this first? And what if I go do, he just said, I just stay the course. I knew that I wanted to be the change. So if that means that I have to continue to raise the bar, if that means I have to connect myself with the right people, but staying, not allowing money to be what drives him, because he's, like he said, um, you can be a millionaire if you're in education. And you may not be a millionaire being a teacher, but there are different spaces within education that will give you an opportunity to make the money that you want. But it takes time, it's a process. And
Hmm.
so we have to learn to be in that space and not let money be what takes you away from your purpose in your life, right? We all have different skills and talents, but what are you supposed to be doing? What is that one thing that God continues to speak to you about? Okay, I want you to be in this space. What is it that you have that the world needs? And so even though we have multiple talents, just staying the course to that one thing or those two things that is attached to your purpose, and putting effort towards that and letting everything else come and fall where it may. I just love that he just continued no matter what people was telling him, the coaches that are in his life that told him, like, hey, football's going to be over eventually. We don't have enough coaches speaking that language as well. We're still selling these dreams of NFL and NBA, and that for some they may, but for many they're not. And are we talking enough about that space, and not spending so much time in what they can offer and their gifts and talents? So I just love that he's just continuing. I'm sure he hasn't even touched the surface of what he's going to be doing.
Yeah, and one of the main things that he mentioned, which a lot of people, I mean, it's people will say I'm not that type of person, but you got to become the type of person. Is networking. You got to go and meet the people who are doing it. You got to go and surround yourself with the people that are in the places that you're looking to get to, and you got to show that I have enough value to be at this table too. Because when you come with that level of confidence to those networks, they're going to want to pull you into their network. They're going to want to show you the ropes and put you on game. And I noticed that when I came back from Miami, when I moved here from Miami in 2015, I said, I want to know the top person every level when it came to the academic spaces that I was in. And it just skyrocketed me to local success, at least. But I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, get comfortable with being the least knowledgeable person at the table, but knowing before I leave this table, I'm going to increase my knowledge, take it and pour it out elsewhere, and just continue to go to another table, get filled up, take it, pour it out, so on and so forth. So off that note, it was a quick one, but it was impactful. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And we look forward to some future partnerships and collaboration with him as well. Because it takes a village. It takes a village. And we know that we talk about the system being broken. The system is not broken, like we had a guest say before, because it works for those it's supposed to work for. But it's people like you and I, if we continue to put our gifts and talents, our passion and our drive behind education, we can make change in that space. So thank you so much. For those who are watching, please make sure you go out and you support the Black Podcast and share this video. You never know who's in your circle of people that may need to hear his story. And wow, I just look forward to some future endeavors and things that he's doing, and follow him on his Instagram and help support him in what he's doing as well in his professional and personal life.
Yes, and what he mentioned around making really good money while you're in education, don't let society fool you. You're in education, living an impoverished life. There's ways to make a lot of money while you're making a lot of impact. So that's our message for the day. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be right back here, same time, same place next week for another great guest, and we shall see you then. I don't know where out there, but it's pretty cold in right now, so y'all stay warm, stay well. We'll see you next time.
All right.